Welcome back to another episode of QTube, and today we have the wonderful Gregory Dillon with us, who has just released his brand new single, Plastic Ferrari. Hello, Mr. Dillon.
What's up? Vroom vroom, beep beep, in the Jeep.
This is our first, other than being on Instagram, this is our first kind of like video chat. We've done a podcast about a year ago, just over a year ago. And that was back in the days when you were just kind of, I think you were on single number 3, which was Alien Boyfriend. And about to release, about to release single number 4, and now here we are, many moons later, and he's still going strong. And Plastic Ferrari is on the scene.
Well,
congratulations!
Yeah.
On the single.
I know. I broke into a Walmart and I stole from the kids' girl section a plastic Barbie Jeep, in this case a plastic Ferrari, and I just took off with this idea of just having a meltdown in my car in the suburbs and wanting to roll down the windows and cry and let the entire neighborhood know that I am an emotional being. But it's more than that. It really is. It's exploring such an interesting concept that I think as a queer gay artist, it's so fun to do, which we've talked about in the past, which is, going back to your youth and understanding what, the kind of codes and the way you acted was, so much imposed upon you, and it's kind of breaking it all down. For me, I always looked at Barbies as this amazing, beautiful fantasy that I could never be a part of as a kid. And when I wrote this track, I thought originally it was going to be for a girl because it made sense to my, my thinking, oh, this Barbie, it's a girl. And then I really went after and said, wait a minute, no, this track has to be for a guy. It's about a Ken doll fantasy. He's in the closet. He has a crush on his best friend, and he's absolutely shaken to say anything. And it's that idea of perfectionism, of wanting to, have that perfect smile and this idea of this perfect figured out life. And, I think a lot of the American dream is just doubled down on a lot of us. And as a queer person, I just felt like so confused by it as a kid. Now it just makes so much sense to deconstruct it and sing about it. So I'm really excited that it's being received so well.
I like that, and I don't think people, we don't challenge ourselves to dive a little deeper sometimes. We just kind of take from the surface. But what you said is very, very true, that even though we don't know it growing up as queer men and when we're young, there is that bit of fantasy that we're denied. And not every male or every queer male is going to be interested in the Barbie aspect. But when you put toys out that are that colorful and that playful and that full of creativity and imagination, kids generally want to, they want to be involved in that. But there was and there is still with certain toys, Barbie being kind of one of them, it's for girls, and you're denied it.
I remember my first real Barbie experience. I was starting to tell you a little bit earlier. My sister had the full collection, the Bratz, Barbies, Polly Pockets, like literally you name it, drawers of this stuff. And it wasn't until I was like 14 that we got a lock on our bathroom upstairs. And I waited to a day where my sister and mom were out running errands and my dad was mowing the lawn. And the first thing I thought of was, go grab those Barbies. And I brought them into my bathroom. And I remember feeling like so excited by this moment that I've been waiting for, to see what's all the hype. Like I've always had an eye for these things. And it's so funny because I was already kind of, I was 14. I had already traded in some of my queer habits for more suppressed, heterosexual ones. And I actually felt uncomfortable. I didn't know how to talk to them. I was sitting them, lining them up, and I was just like, what do I say? Like, I don't have the flair was already suppressed. So I just think it's hysterical looking back at myself. Like, even in the pretend, I was still uncomfortable. Like, how do I play with them? Like, what do I say? Like, do you want to drink? Like, do you want to, how do we kiki? I don't know. And I just think it's really funny looking back at that. Like, even in private, like sometimes queer youth doesn't allow themselves to fully, because once you start to suppress, it's kind of tough to bring it up. So this is my full regurgitation of everything. And I was very lucky to have a friend that I had met in the writing community, Yavin, who's going to come on in a few minutes, who just is, it's really great to have artists that are willing to go there with you and also share the same exact experiences. So
I think that it's like closets within closets, and
shoes.
people don't necessarily realize. I think that they're starting to realize a little bit more. You know, with how everything has been talked about with Black Lives Movement and understanding Black Lives Matter movement, and understanding where that history comes from. Anyone who's had any kind of, you know, marginalization, there's baggage and baggage upon baggage upon baggage, where, you know, right down, I mean, we're talking about toys, and we're talking about, you know, a child, and even at 14, you're still a youth. There's a denial to you that it doesn't seem like much in the moment, but that's suppression. And what is happening there is just creating more and more suppression around a bunch of different things. But, you know, you look at it and it gets to us, especially my age, where I don't know a world where I felt comfortable holding my husband's hand in public. I don't know that world. I've never experienced it. And if we were to do it, it feels so awkward because we didn't grow up with that, that we instinctively would be like, oh, somebody's going to look at us, that we're just awkward and I'm kind of uncomfortable about it. And that's, I mean, that's relationship. But when you take it and you bring it down to a level of what you're talking about, you know, that suppression, it starts so young.
Yeah, it does. And it goes so hand in hand with Barbie specifically. And I just love the theme of, not only was it the awkwardness of not experiencing those toys. I mean, that's where the fascination comes from. But the theme is really relatable on a much different level of perfectionism. And this, you know, the smiling Barbie is almost in a desperation to show this perfect reality that, you know, is never obtained. And I really relate to that. I don't know if it's a Virgo thing or it's just a me thing, but I have always struggled with showing the world, people, my, you know, neighborhood, this perfect person that just wanted to be perceived as, you know, enough, and never feeling enough on the inside. And so when I look at these Barbie's faces, there's a layer of like, she's smiling, but like, what's behind that? What's inside of that mold? And it very quickly became something quite sad. And I really, when I sing this track, I feel like you've mentioned before, and I'm always so honored that you say it's an anthem, but it feels so powerful to sing that kind of concept of like smiling desperate like a Barbie. Like, that is so, it's so sad, but it's this feel good kind of pop euphoria that I live for. So, I mean, that's the great thing.
It's a different type of storytelling. And as I've, you know, said to many artists and many people, that I love, that's one of the things I love about music, is that much like, it's going to be a really weird analogy, it's going to be terrible, but that's fine, we'll get through it. Much like a clown, on the front, on the image, you see a lot of makeup. You can see a smiley face drawn onto it. But if you look deeper, you see the actual person and what it is that they may be going through and what their story. The story on the front and the story inside are very, very different.
It's so funny because I just watched Joker last night. So it's funny you bring this up. Completely agree. It goes for a lot of different things. The Mask, and there's just so many. And this EP that I'm writing is really centered around an obsession with the American dream, which I think has been around for many different generations of people. And it kind of shifts and changes, but it's always this feeling of like, what are you trying to perceive and show the world, and what's behind the picket fence? Like, what's inside the home? Like, and really it's so different for a lot of people. And I just am fascinated by that concept, because it started with an obsession in the 60s, and then with, it's just kind of continued. And I'm so curious, like, how other people experience that, especially, I mean, I'm 27, but I'm still influenced by that idea of like, having that perfect life, feeling like that you perceive yourself to everyone as this amazing success. And it's pressure. It's so much pressure.
Yeah, I mean, and what you're experiencing, I think, everybody who's from the queer community, I'm not sure if you can see or not, but
I'm like, that's the American dream right there. She's walking by.
One of the CEOs of the company just decided to just kind of like just jump into shot. It happens all the time.
I feel like I saw a Bluetooth in her ear, and she's just like on a little business call.
Quite possibly, but it's very true that whether it's the American dream, I think it lines up with the American dream, but really what it is, it's the human dream, and it really is about being able to live your life and be happy and not be denied things just simply because of who you are, and not being able to have to hide, not having to hide things, and not having to say, pretend that you're something that you're not, because ultimately everything that's inside of you that is fantastic should be allowed to kind of come out. And going back to kind of what you said about this song in particular, so for me, Alien Boyfriend, the reason I love Alien Boyfriend so much is it's one of the first times that I think that anybody last year would have heard and really heard a really great pop song with a great sound to it or whatnot that you can kind of get behind. That was same-sex pronouns. And I don't know if you realize that was one of the first things that I noticed right away, is that here was a guy putting out a song called Alien Boyfriend. He wasn't necessarily the boyfriend. He was talking about his boyfriend. And for somebody who's never heard that before, probably a lot of youth, it's just a mind twist, right? Especially for us older folks. We're kind of like, what? We've hit that point? And now you have the other layer of it where you're talking about that, smiling like, so hard like a Barbie, when so much of the time we don't get a chance to kind of experience it. So
speaking of an alien boyfriend, perfect Zoom background, literally.
Yeah, I'm feeling like an alien in my Barbie pink.
What nebula are you hailing from?
The best one.
Welcome, sir. For anybody who is watching, we have with us Yavin, also another pop artist who has had a string of hits out and a new album and EP and still putting things out. And you guys collaborated together recently, did you not?
We've been writing, yeah.
Yeah, more than one, yeah.
We got bops. We got bops, and more bops.
Tell us a bit about the process.
Yeah, we've some good tunes, and like
go for it, Evan.
You are both right, high energy. I mean, we're not talking like club dance floor, but we're talking good pop smash songs. How does that work when you come together as two people and are kind of on the same track, but you're collaborating together? Is it manic kind of collaboration, or is it kind of like, just symbiosis?
We kind of like, so we had talked about like, I think, did it start with the pictures on Google? Is that where it started?
I mean, it all started when you reached out, and then you were like, hi, I'm coming to New York, can I write? And so I think we started concepts with, yes, maybe some visual things.
Yeah, we so it all started with as you can imagine, some pictures of Barbie in her dream house. We watched like full blown like home tours of Barbie's dream house on YouTube and stuff like that. And we had come up with this concept of writing about how Barbie has this picture perfect life, but she also maybe has some secret tragedy behind all of her smiles and glitz and glam. So that's how it really started. We wrote the song about like Ken, you know, maybe having a side hussy, and you know, it just kind of went from there. And then Gregory kind of took it a step further after that and turned it into like being in love with somebody who's in the closet and has a girlfriend, and the elements kind of came together from there.
That never happens. That scenario never happens in life.
I don't have personal experience.
So, Yavin, you're not in New York. You are in
Boston.
You're in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So I mean, not too far for a distance.
Yeah.
Which is helpful, and you know, when we're not in lockdown. But your work too, it does. And I guess kind of what I was just saying to Gregory before you came on was that a lot of his music really is emotionally kind of driven, and it comes from a place of emotional resonance and relatability. And I find yours is very much like that too. I think that as a youth advocate, you and Gregory, you're the types of artists that I love to introduce young queer kids to.
Thank you.
Because I think that your story is so relatable, and I think that the way that you present the story is very relatable to youth. And I'm curious, like when you sit down to write yourself, do you take that into consideration? Do you can take into consideration like the 10-year-old you who maybe didn't have a Yavin, or Gregory yourself too? Do you take your younger self into consideration about how that may be received?
That's a great question. I mean, I feel like it really depends on different writing sessions, but I think me and you, Yavin, have so many parallels just being New England boys and queer that it's almost like that inner circle of like, you just instantly click. It's almost like you don't need to talk about it. I feel like we were instantly on the same page of like, just knowing and gushing over this, like, yeah, we love Barbie. Like, we're here for her. Like, we know why she's crying. We don't need to even talk about it. I mean, that track was written so fast. And it was just so much fun. Like, when you pick a subject like that, it's just so easy to go like instantly hours and hours of just trying out different ideas. I mean, lyrically, I think more than anything, it was my favorite writing lyrics with Yavin, just because of the concept itself, like 90s and Barbies. And I know we've talked about it being camp, but it's just so, there's so much irony to all of the lyrics, and taking these things that you would have found in a Toys R Us magazine, kind of then ripping them and pasting them into a dark journal. So I don't know. I thought it was super easy. I don't even think we needed to talk about it. And I think that's what makes great writing sessions, is where you just are ready to dive in and you're just there.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, myself, I didn't really start thinking about demographics until recently. Like when I first started writing music and releasing music, I was more so just thinking about making stuff that people could connect to. But I think nowadays I'm definitely feeling a lot more conscious about the impact that my work can have. So, I mean, I've been like including like he, him pronouns when I'm talking about love interests and stuff like that now. And yeah, I definitely think about it a lot more, because I feel like I've lived enough life to want to just like do, especially my art and creativity, as openly as I can. So that's something I think about. And with Gregory, he was definitely like a very easy pick to collaborate with on that front, because when I'm like doing writing sessions, I obviously like I want to write with somebody that I think I could write a good song with, but also somebody that I feel like I can connect with on like a personal level. And like just having watched Gregory on social media and stuff like that, like I could tell that we had similar sense of humor, that we would have fun writing together. And so it was kind of just like an easy person to say like, oh yeah, I should reach out to that guy. So.
With the state of and you know, we did a panel during the One Live Live music festival on queer representation, and just, earlier when we were offline and we did an Insta live session, and I was saying to Gregory that much like yourself, him and a lot of these artists are kind of the first wave of authentic queer artists, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who was out before, but what I mean is that there was always that piece of the industry, the music industry, that said you need to hide yourself, and so many people did that. I mean, if you think about, like, even with Melissa Etheridge back in the day, Elton, of course, and it's different. And I don't mean to sideline them or say that it's not as authentic. But even with your gagas and everything, the spectacle that's around it and the level of which the attention is there, it kind of makes it seem like, oh, it's not such an issue, until you get to the singer-songwriter kind of level where then you're still seeing that. So you guys are part of that first wave of the authentic artists coming through that are using the same sex pronouns, that are not hiding it, that you don't have to make, a press release to come out, you were never in. And that's such a new thing for music. I'm not sure if music really knows what to do with it. I don't think that they do, but I think it's actually beneficial to you that they don't know what to do, simply because you have all the control as artists.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, my goal in the next couple of years is even to almost forget and detach from a little bit of pure queer identity with music, because, and that may come across sounding bad, but in a way it's like, I would love my music just to be seen as music and not even need to, like, of course I will always see my queer family as like the center of foundation and support of where I come from and where I'm always going to be. But if I can get to a place where people are just listening for the fact that it's good music and it's just a good pop song and it's not really bothering them one way or the other, whether or not it's a heterosexual guy listening to my song and bopping around, like that to me would be, I think, ideal, where I'm almost detached from any labels and it's just about the music, which I mean, in some ways, I will never want to leave having the advocacy because we still have a go. But it would be great to have a moment like that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Seconded.
Yeah. Have either of you, okay, so, and I guess what I'm kind of coming around to with this kind of question is, we know that, and Gregory, yeah, that is the dream, is to get to that point where it's so normal that you hear same-sex pronouns, and it's so normal that 50% could be of the chart of the top, the Billboard Top 200 could be queer artists, and knowingly so, and it doesn't matter. But I guess, how is your it's not a hard question. I'm trying to phrase it the right way, but what is your level of comfortability, I guess? You're comfortable with yourself, but going into that industry, how do you prepare for that, where you may have, I mean, ultimately, you probably want to be signed, you probably want to have support behind you, but you may come across that kind of, oh, you should, what's your comfortability there, and what have you experienced it, I guess?
That's a great question. I've never experienced it in being an independent artist. Who knows what will happen? And I hope that I would have the right team around me that would never even have to ask those kinds of questions. I mean, I've been with my management for a little bit of time now, and I think it's great having someone who's so parallel to the ideals of what we just talked about. No, I'll have to let you know. I mean, I feel like if anything, it would be either a part of my artistry and or a part of the advocacy that comes with this role, and bringing that to light. So who knows? I mean, yeah, that's a great question. And I think if anything, it's probably just a great challenge. Like, make sure to remember those things, because I'm sure it will be still a part of something in the year 2020. Like, homophobia is not necessarily gone. And especially when it comes to branding, it's all about, dropping certain aspects of you to be, what the industry wants, and that's a shame. I'm curious how, you know, that will continue, especially as more independent artists stay independent. You know, getting a label, it would be great, but I'm also not interested at the moment because I'm having, I think, a great time being independent.
Same.
I think that, and Yavin, I mean, you've been doing this for a bit as well. I guess what I'm seeing from singer-songwriters is a little bit more of that I'm okay being independent. The dream of being signed and the dream of being, you know, pushed out and having this, you know, A&R team and whatnot moving you here and there, isn't the same as it was before for young artists. I think that I'm seeing a lot more of the, I think that independent artists would like a lot more opportunities that they're not getting, but they're okay being independent because they're having fun creating in their own kind of world.
Yeah. I can be a bit of a control freak, but it's only because I have very clear-cut visions on what I want when it comes to my work, right? And so I just I don't, obviously, the appeal of having label is more so the money because they're willing to invest in what you want to do, and obviously they have more access to different opportunities for you, but at the end of the day, if you end up having a following that can keep you afloat and how to keep doing what you want to do, then to me that's kind of the ideal situation because there's nobody telling you what you can and can't do. And so the idea of being an entry level signee to some big label, they want to control everything that they can, because they have an idea of what you should be, which is why they signed you, right? And so I just personally, I would like to stay independent. Obviously, if certain things come my way down the line, I'll think about it, but it would very much be dependent on what they expect me to do and whatnot. So that's how I feel.
Yeah. You're both kind of the artists that you're singer-songwriters, you're artists because you're both vocalists, you're both performers, but you're also both producers. In a way, you play with different sounds, you play with different, genres and peppering things in and that. You know, I'm curious, from both of you, do you see yourself ever kind of saying, okay, yeah, you know what, I've done the thing. I'm going to be more of the writer and producer over here. The hip is sore. I'm not going to get on stage anymore. Or maybe I'm just personally taking that in. But yeah, do you see yourselves, both of you I could see scoring in a way. And I'm wondering, those types of opportunities, do you see yourself going down those lanes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have plenty of insecurities, and I think sometimes when I get overwhelmed by them, I think, oh, I'll just do the behind the scenes stuff. And that's really just from, I think, the pressure of being an artist, it's the imposter syndrome that our friend Vardan speaks of a lot. And it's not believing that you're actually legitimate. And in those cases, I get a weird sense to go into the behind the scenes. But I think also independently, I've been, equally much a composer as well as a songwriter. And I love film. I think, working on those kinds of projects and also for other artists, Yavin, I'm sure you would say the same. You get to be an entirely different role, which is so, I think, good and healthy for your brain and your creative side to just work those muscles of putting yourself in someone else's shoes is equally important to being a writer. I always look at Leland's career and with a lot of admiration because he can do the whole pop, star thing and have his own moment. But then when you hear the kind of music he's working on with other artists, it's just so, it's incredible. It's so different. So I really respect those kinds of careers where you're bridging the gap of I'm an artist and I'm also, a writer. I think they're two different things, but they don't have to necessarily be two different people.
Yeah. For me, I mean, this could change. I personally don't see myself ever fully becoming a behind the scenes person just because I love creating for myself so much, but I definitely also love doing the behind the scenes stuff. And as far as like scoring goes, that's actually like a dream of mine. I would love to like curate like a soundtrack for a movie, because like so much of my own music is inspired by film as is. Like I always want my music to sound like it could be on the soundtrack to a movie. So I would definitely love to do that at some point.
I need the ET score to happen right now while you're like pretend pedaling across the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it the best Nebula. Yeah.
So, Plastic Ferrari is the first song that you guys have kind of, you know, collaborated on, like that started the collaboration. I know, Gregory, you are currently, I think, in a room that may be on the set of a music video that may be coming.
Yes, I mean, Yavin, you're welcome to stick. I just actually pulled up the secret music video that's coming out on Friday, which was filmed here in Stanford. You can hear a tractor going in the background. I planned for that. This is like the coolest area. It's very American dream suburbs, and I made a music video with just 2 other people in quarantine, but it came out so well. I'm so excited by it. Strictly for the fact that I got to direct this time, and I really incorporated Barbies heavily into this music video, matching everything up to the real life-size versions of these Barbies. So
that is very cool. I mean, music video is, and you both have experience with music video. I think it's very important in music. I think that the visual creativity can sometimes really tell the story even larger, or can just add to it. It's not always necessary, but I think it's really important. What should we expect from future releases from either one of you through this collaboration?
You want to go, Yavin?
Yeah, well, first of all, I also have a song coming out at some point, don't know when yet, that Gregory and I worked on together. We wrote it together with Zach Benson and Gregory's roommate, Becca, and Gregory produced it. It's quite a tune, so that's going to come at some point down the road. Yeah, I don't know, like I definitely, having written with Gregory, I will say, like, I had written with one person prior, but it was like I was writing for that person as opposed to really with them. And Gregory was my first time like collaboratively like coming together on a song. So it was kind of like me getting the bug, and I would definitely like to continue doing that down the road. So that's what I got from it, really.
What about you, mister?
Oh man. I mean, my dream for a year has been to release an album, and it's kind of changed so many times, but this is the first time I'm like, I have all the tracks ready for this EP, and it's like, it's very exciting. I feel super grateful that despite everything that's gone on with the quarantine, I've just had a really amazing team around me and amazing friends like Yavin who are just so supportive. I mean, you can't ask for more than that, than, you know, that kind of support and that kind of family to just follow you and help you where you're going with this thing, because it changes from day to day. So I feel like I can always call you up, Yavin, and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. but I sound so manic. But yeah, I'm very, very, very pumped to just keep going. This is the first time I have the release line is just jam-packed. I feel like every 5 weeks there's going to be a new single dropping until the end of the summer, and that just to me seems like it's speed, and I'm ready.
And they're all so good. They're all so good.
Oh, thanks, Yavin.
That's from a fan perspective, it's very exciting because, and again, it goes back to that whole independent artist aspect, that you have control as to how you want to release things. So if you want to release things faster than say the machine, the industry machine wants you to, you can. You know, it's from a fan standpoint, to know that I'm going to get lots of music coming, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. From the other side of things, with, you know, that rollout and moving towards an EP or album, will it be a combination, or is the color blocking songs that you did, will they be all one kind of like collective, or will it merge?
So, that's a great question. Originally, I was thinking of bringing in those old tracks into a full color spectrum, but that was right before COVID, and it just didn't make sense to try to carry that through. And I just, as much as I was struggling to hold on to like bringing this through, it was not necessarily working. And I did a lot of like contemplating, and I'm like, I'm just releasing it to the universe, and whatever happens. And then it kind of reassembled itself into this newer concept. But I mean, visuals, as you know, are so important to me. That's not going anywhere. The color blocking is, I think, having an evolution moment where it's being done in a very new way. As you'll see in the music video, I still find color incredibly important, but I think I'm now just allowing them to blend a lot stronger. But I definitely, on a personal level too, I still color block. I'm in all white right now. You're never going to get me to wear a non-color block, but I know I even color block the room. So I'm still thinking about that always. But yeah, I think I'm expanding this concept of like, it's okay to abandon ideas that you want to stick through. It's like, I think that has been really helpful. It's like, you know what, you can't always have the picture perfect ideal that you wanted. So you might as well just get your hands a little messy and see what you can, make out of the dough.
Fair enough.
As my pretend Italian grandma always said.
Yavin, your visuals, so you're both very visual artists. Where Gregory has a lot of color, you use a lot of imagery. And saying that film is a big impact on you is not surprising to me at all. Where do you see that? I mean, I guess, where do you draw inspiration from, first of all, for that? I mean, film is one of them, but where else? And how do you see that evolving?
Honestly, like when it comes to visuals, it really like is like just film. I mean, so there are definitely like some like music videos and like certain artists who have very cool visual styles that like inspire me too. But I don't know, it's like, as far as where it's going, I abandoned the birthday hat thing. I kind of wanted to leave that like with growing up. Now I'm just kind of like, I feel like I'm going like full throttle like film. So like I have a music video that's in the works right now for my next single, and it's still in the formative stages, but my plan is for it to look like, I plan on probably filming it like with a film camera, like full 9 type of thing. And like yeah, it's just going to be a lot of just like, again, like I mentioned before, I have very clear cut visions, and it's just going to be like doing my best to bring them to life, because my brain is full of lots of daydreams that I just like want everybody to see as best as they can.
Gregory, with your videos, how have you, I'm always surprised. I shouldn't say surprised. It's a terrible word. It's like, I'm like, how could the man even possibly do this? It's not surprised. I'm, I guess, delighted, elated.
I'm surprised.
When you put out a video, now, I mean, Alien Boyfriend's a really good one. And, like all the videos, really, is it your concept, or who do you have that you're working with? Are you hiring, or is it friends? Is it people that you know? Because you get a really high end result with what I know to be, I know that you're not, handing out hundreds of thousands of dollars. How do you do that? How do you, I guess, what are you using? What's in your arsenal?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be able to stand up here and say that I did it all on my own without the few close friends that I have that are willing to go with me on these ideas. I mean, my friend Jake and Joe and my sister Genevieve, the 3 people who I've kept, and it's really just those 3 people who will literally listen to me and be like, I have this idea, I have these locations, I'm buying and returning these clothes on ASOS. We have 2 weeks, let's do it. And they're so gun-ho. I mean, they are definitely, the production is evolving in how we're going about this. I mean, my first couple of videos, like Alien Boyfriend, we didn't really necessarily have a plan. It was me and my friend Jake, and I was like, this is the locations that I've been saving. I have these clothes, and I have this alien mask. Like, let's just, spend a day filming, and I'll edit it with you, and we'll figure it out. And I kind of love that kind of garage style of just like trying to make it from scrap parts. But this video was very much, I think, done because of that. I was so used to, you know, working in that style that when quarantine happened and I only had 2 friends and a video camera, I was like, you know what, like I know I'm used to this. Who knows what will happen when I get maybe a little bit more budget. But at the end of the day, I was always told by my mentor, Amanda, you make art with your limitations. And I feel like you really can do so much with a couple $100. And I've been too lucky to have friends that are in this film world that are so talented, that are able to take an idea and be able to be like, yeah, let's make this look visually amazing. And I really love making music videos for that reason of like, it's stressful. You have, and another reason why I love Yavin as an artist so much is it just gets to show that like you are not just a musician, you're not just a songwriter, you're also like this incredible visionary and a director. And I get so amazed by my other friends too who do this kind of shit, because I do it myself and it's so much work. I don't know how like other people also do it sanely, because I'm not sane when I'm in a music video production mode. But this one specifically, I've never had so much fun making a music video for.
So how do you both hope to end 2020, other than in a dumpster fire that is currently happening with our world? How do you see your your music and everything ending for 2020 to kind of set you up for 2021, and who knows what that will be like? Perhaps alien invasion.
Well, Yavin's leading it.
Yeah, I'm already in space, so halfway there. Yeah. For me, it's just to like be putting out content. I'm actually like putting out content in a different way than I ever have, because I was only putting out albums until this year. And so now I'm doing like the whole singles thing, and like I have a single coming soon, and then hopefully maybe like 1 or 2 more before the end of the year, and then just my goal is to also like travel and collaborate with people in different states once it's like safe to do that. So just a lot of like putting the pedal more so to the metal, and making things.
And you, Gregory?
Same. No, I also am. I'm sure we'll be in that dumpster looking for food that's not expired, that isn't burning. I just my fingers crossed moment is just get this EP out. I know there's so many artists that we've been tipped off are going to be releasing during the fall, so I'm sure it's going to be quite competitive, but at the end of the day, I'm just really excited to get this out and then not think so much about the result and just more about the do, because I've never been happier in a way. Making this kind of music in this quarantine has been such a struggle, but I've come out the other side appreciating this kind of time so much, and I really look at it as opportunity as well. So I'm grateful. I'm just gonna keep pushing, and then yes, lots of music videos underway. I'm filming another one in a couple weeks, and then another one in a couple weeks after that. So I'm gonna try to keep up with Beyonce and just
well, I can't wait to see how you fit into the heels and how the legs stand up, because there's some tall ones there. There's some legs.
They're not flexible, but they're legs.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for joining me on here today. This has been awesome. I'm super excited with what's coming next. I can't wait to hear all the music. You two are a couple of our favorites, and it's just great to see how happy you are making music for yourself. And just having that ability to kind of push it out there and be yourselves. And I just think it's awesome. And I think that what you're doing is fantastic.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny. You are such an advocate for us. You made such an incredible platform for us to,
really,
to celebrate. We're all going places, Hanny.
And there's still more to come. All right. I'm going to return you to your lives to make more videos and make more music. And I can't wait for people to get a chance to see this and hear more about what you got on the go.
Amen.